of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know.
Frizzalone. Here. Fritz. Mayor. Moran. Eustace. Rice. Umanello. Winfrey. And Friday. We also have Mr. Brooks.
Approval of minutes for the joint finance, with the joint finance, September 6th. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Approval of minutes for September 6th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Approval of minutes for executive session minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Old business, actually, what I'd like to do is, there's not much of a report from the Judicial Center delivery teams, Whitefield, Lane, and Farnsworth. If I could have them step up and get them out of here.
Thank you. Yeah, we gave the big update last time we were here. So just to keep you up to speed, we're in the design development phase of the project right now. So right now we're targeted for completion of that on February 3rd. So we've got several months of design development to do before we'll have another significant submittal standpoint to the county. We are looking at the possibility of having maybe another interim presentation, thinking maybe the first week of December potentially, just to talk a little bit more about design things as we're progressing. I think in our last presentation, we gave you kind of the good overview, talked about the exterior a little bit, but we'll focus a little bit more maybe on some interior things and just kind of keep you up to speed on how the design is progressing. So I'll work with the committee chair to get that scheduled and get that all sorted out. But that's basically where we're at, working through the design process. We're back on a regular weekly meeting schedule with all the users to continue to advance more and more detail on the project. In fact, we've got one this afternoon at 1 o'clock. So I guess that's about it in terms of the status update, but can answer any questions you have.
And I know there was an article in the paper, but Jason met with the integrated justice team at the courthouse in 402 Judge Carlson's room in regards to technology in the courtroom, and so that was well attended. The whole courtroom was packed, and it was one of our smallest, but it was a good showing. Quite honestly, it's something that we definitely want and will have in the new courthouse. It was almost, to me, a little embarrassing that we don't already have some of those programs for our justice team, but I think it was, it was important to have that and show that that will be implemented into the new courthouse. And then right after that meeting, we all met with the Will County Bar Association, and he gave them the same presentation that he gave us. They have approached several of us in regards to wanting to give some dollars to the new courthouse. We wanted to show them where we're at on that. I had gotten some feedback from them, and they were a little puzzled as to, well, now where do what's the next step? So if you could reach out to them and see what is the next step, how much money they're willing to give, what type of space they want or need, or how we can accommodate that.
Yeah, I think the chief judge spoke with, there were, I think there's 4 different bar associations that were represented. I don't know if they were all at the meeting, but chief judge spoke with them a little bit just to kind of say, hey, this is more to kind of keep you up to speed on where we're going. Certainly we're interested in feedback if there's, some refinements we can make in that. So I'll work with the chief judge's office and we'll figure out how to keep them in the loop and get feedback and see what the next steps are with them.
Thank you.
I don't ask you here, I'll forget. Did you find a space yet for the courtroom model?
No, we've been working on that. We had a couple different options that have come up, and they're just not quite the right fit. The hard part is we're trying to do a mock-up for the entire size of one of the primary courtrooms. So it ends up requiring a space of about 35 feet by 50 feet. So in a perfect world, we'd have a column-free space for that. So Dave Tack and I have been working on that to try to see if we can find a location. We don't have
How
one
long do
yet.
you think you need?
Probably, I'll say about a month to 2 months. It kind of depends. We want to get the initial setup done, get all the users in there, spend some time together, anticipate that we'll have some refinements, so it gives us maybe 2 weeks to make some modifications and then have people come back and make sure we have it dialed in. So
I know when we did an initial walkthrough, Nick and Dave, Denise, when we had walked through Midwest for looking for space, interim space for Julie McKay, we had talked about that first entryway of Midwest. Are you guys still talking about that? I know and you said something about columns, and they have
Yeah.
those pretty big columns in there, and I don't know if that was gonna be in the way, so.
Yeah, I actually went there after last committee meeting, just to kind of refresh my memory on the layout of the space, and unfortunately, the way the column layout works,
I figured.
no matter how we shifted the mock-up around, we always ended up with a column like right in the middle of the judge's bench, or in areas that were, you know. Yeah, I actually called a couple, warehouse developers, local, and, you know, ideally just a big box warehouse. We need
Right.
just the tiniest little space within in the warehouse, but it's a matter of finding one that's available, and so far we don't have one, but that's
Check
become
them out, yeah.
time sensitive. I did, yeah, I called them, and nothing. Yeah.
How much room you need?
An area about 35 by 50, and another one that's 40 by 40. So, yeah.
Right, you got space to have, you got space to have house with that.
I do have some buildings.
Yeah, house with it.
That'd be a warehouse.
I'd say,
You'd rent some at a really fair price.
No, I wouldn't charge you at all, it's in Grundy County, so it's kind of.
closer the better, but at this point, time's becoming a little bit sensitive in terms of trying to get that done, and because once we commit to a space, we've got a little bit of time yet to get it built. So I think at this point, we'd entertain any options that would be
I know I
available.
mentioned it before, and I know we were trying to stay close, proximity downtown, but have you checked with local 150, their building, south of 53?
I have not.
Okay.
If, you know, we could certainly do that if, you know, if you,
I don't know.
It's almost like an empty warehouse.
It's just over the county line, it's actually Cook County, it's at 183rd Oak Park Avenue. They basically live on the Cook County side, which is a big mistake. Will County's across the street, right? And I think they've got a lot of, this sort of problems getting a lot of.
Okay.
I don't know.
okay.
Anybody's got any other ideas?
Okay.
Yeah, feel free, if you guys think of something, you want to just email me, that's great.
Okay.
We'll take any suggestions, look at it real quick and try to make a decision.
The location's only 20 minutes from here.
And what were the parameters, 35 by?
Yeah, 35 by 50 and about 40 by 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You know, there's another, I got one for you for sure. For sure, I think.
Sure thing.
On Harlem Avenue, between Balmer going south, there's a strip center that's probably a quarter mile long that's been 90% vacant for the last few years. It's right where Lincoln Way North is. And by the way, I'd
How about
also
that high school?
contact Lincoln Way North,
Yeah.
Lincoln Way, to see if maybe we can do it Lincoln Way North. Which is, you know, they have to.
Yeah, you know, I didn't even think about, are they
They are
using?
using some of the gym for the park district vending over
Yeah.
there. They've got to have some big spaces.
Well, that's what I was thinking, the gym would be great, but if they're using it for stuff, then.
Well, they're only gonna use one, they got two jobs.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that'd be a good one.
okay. Yeah, that's good. Month to two tops.
Kmart do this.
Make sure they don't turn it off.
Oh, yeah, Kmart New Lennox, there we go.
Yeah, a lot of those still have the column spacing and
Yeah, that's true. They have a lot of
dominates it a little bit tighter still, but, I mean,
I would check Lincoln Way North, and then there's a strip center, like you say, it's right next to Lincoln Way North. And my guess is that those will be stores that are pretty much with no columns,
yeah.
probably work.
All right, anyone have any ideas, message, Jason?
Okay.
Do you guys have anything?
I got a couple of quick things. Just for the sake of time, just wanted to update you on a few items here. We are starting to, the OPR, the Owner's Private Requirements document is pretty well settled right now, but we are starting to work with the team on vetting through some of those things from a cost benefit point of view and from an operations point of view. So we are starting to get some meetings with Ken Rogalski and Jim Ellis, along with Dave Tack to that end. And mainly just merging the expectations of the OPR with the actual design and some cost and payback decisions to make sure we're spending the money in the right place. We did get an email on, from CDAC this morning, so we're continuing to work with them on getting funding. It looks like anywhere between $1 to $3 per square foot could be available for the Justice Center. It's capped at $300K per facility, so there's that piece, but there's an additional $120,000 that they can make available for high performance bonus. So we may be able to get those kinds of dollars, but until we work through the whole process with them, we won't know how much we're going to get directly from CDAC. But that's ongoing. We have commissioning specs and quality control requirements and envelope testing requirements are all in draft form and will be included in the DD package that will be issued. We are working through design review comments from the SD package. In fact, most of those have been responded to now by the design team, and we're just working through some last minute things there. And the final thing is that we worked up a position description for a facilities management position for the county, and we've turned that in. So if you want any more help with that, we're certainly here to answer any questions or help flesh that out any further. But it's not a wrench turner type position. It's more of an engineering point of view and a higher level guy for the county. So we've got that done. So that's it from our end.
Okay, thank you.
We're just, if Elaine continues to follow up on pricing, with the exterior skin of the building, precast, the concrete, it's going to be the architecture precast probably, what we looked at, some of the stone, the glazing, and then some of the NDT systems. We're just continuing along the track we started when we were putting together our SD pricing, continuing to meet with the contractors, also with the design team to try and refine this, get the cost down as tight as we can for the big systems, particularly the outside, and make sure we get the interface and the detail points right. So we'll continue to just try and clamp down on that as we go into BD.
Any questions?
If you go into what? Oh, that could.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
I never do with that. It's designed at all.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dad. MCO building paragraphs report. Okay.
I'm going to defer to Mike Miglerini, if that's okay.
Sure.
We're about 98% done. The furniture will be delivered October 24th, so we're looking around the first, second week of November to be able to move everybody out of 121.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Does that include Julie too?
Pardon me?
Does that include Julie too?
Depends, the bank, if they are able to get out by the 17th. For Julie, all we have to do is build a couple walls, a couple of doors,
Okay.
but IT has to do their magic.
Okay.
So,
Great. Thank you. Discussion during public parking at or near the courthouse.
The only thing I guess I could report, thanks to Mike Miglerini and State's Change Office, we've moved 78 cars out of the Joliet deck. So as far as, now there's some people who've chosen to pay for themselves, that's their choice. Those that moved out were relocated to our lot along the railroad tracks there. So, and we actually had a request, incidentally, from the existing tenants in the beach building, because they were parking some people there also one day a week, but we told them we can't because it's our people and moving there, so they were fine with that.
Okay.
So that's really it for right now as far as parking.
Savings, what's our savings?
I don't appreciate that number, but it is, we were paying for that previously, now we're paying for our lots.
Great, thank you. Discussion regarding Public Building Commission entitled to property. I know, Jim, you had a ongoing question about this.
Yeah, well, I guess this is really for Mary. Is this, the Public Building Commission holds title to certain properties?
It does, most of them with the ADF, but we, and I told you this last month, but we are working on a spreadsheet, and we're going to set forth each parcel, who is entitled to it, and if we need to work out, some of these we probably need to sit down with PBC and have the title transferred to the county, because that was part of the original agreement, was that they would be transferred back to the county when the bonds are paid off. So
Mary's working on it.
we're working.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Update from Will County Public Safety Complex delivery teams. I did, didn't I? Thanks to your report, Joe. Sorry, Joe. Him and I were having a good conversation. I thought it was over out there. Thanks, Joe.
I'll try and be short with you.
You promise.
Mr. Music, well, past history, that might not be the case. But in the spirit of cooperation, unfortunately, I do have about 3,600 square feet vacant in the strip center I own, so I'd be happy to donate that to the county for the 30 or 60 days that you need, if it works. Farnsworth.
Jason, did Jason leave already?
Just he left, yeah. So unfortunately, I have that, but I'm happy to do that. What I have, Mr. Muse has asked me to come here a couple of times a year and give you a little update. And so I thought for the first time here, maybe it would be most sense to give you just a little historical document of a variety of different projects that we've done over the years. Because some people, wonder what we do, and there's, of course, if I ask you, you think of the big ones, which would have been the juvenile jail, the adult detention, but there are also other smaller ones. The state's attorney with their drug program acquired a couple of single residence homes that we turned into multiple occupancy, dealt with the city of Joliet. We do those types of things. The properties that the state's attorney is working on, we happened to acquire a couple of years ago, 3 acres out in Crete alongside the substation, so if the county ever decides that it wants to do any expansion, that property is there. The two I'd like to focus on this morning with you, Sunny Hill and then the juvenile jail. Sunny Hill, we're in our final phase, and we're going to be hopefully over the next couple of months completing that. And there has been some items that go beyond the scope of the work that people want done out there. In that area, one of them is the flooring. And I think Mike's going to talk to you about that a little later. And he and I have had some discussions on that, and I think we both agree that Farnsworth has done engineering, front-end documents, all of that for that work. It may make the most sense to have the PBC continue with that and use Farnsworth and bid it out. If you want to have the Mike staff and oversee it, that's your call, but we've already incurred all of those expenses. There's a couple other items. Farnsworth has done the surveying and engineering work to put up the garage addition out there. If and when that happens, so we could preserve that and use that. In the area of the juvenile facility, that's a unique agreement out there. That's a 3-party agreement between Will County and Kankakee County and Public Building Commission. And that is a 30-year lease. And that lease, the finance piece of that lease is up this year. And so the final payments will be made, but the lease has 10 years to go. And the lease calls for the PBC to negotiate with Will County and Kankakee the finance piece of that agreement. And we visited with Kankakee on that, and their chairman is not running for re-election, so he's asked if we would hold those negotiations until next year. So we will come back to you in February, most likely, to start that process. See where that goes. There are some reserves there. There's more than just the rent. There's the reserves and the capital funds involved in that. So that'll be probably the biggest thing we have going on after the first of the year is renegotiating those leases. Other projects that come to us, we never know. Health department has come to us when their balcony was collapsing, and state's attorney has come to us. So a lot of our stuff is never planned, but it's a result of some crisis somewhere. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think what I gave you this morning outlines on the stuff that we've done. Some of it you probably know about, and some of it you may not.
Any questions, anyone?
How much was the kitchen renovation, from warm up to a full kitchen? That's not there.
You know, no, and I could go back and look at that.
Oh, that's not important. We just want one here in town.
Oh. See,
Well,
originally, the food was transported from the adult detention
Right.
facility out there, and so we changed it over a few years ago.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
No questions, I'll see you after the first of the year.
All right, thank you. Update from Will County Public Safety Complex delivery teams.
Just going to give you a brief overview. Margot Ward with Leopardo, Jake Davis with the DLR group, and Tim Kiefer again with Farnsworth.
All right, just a brief status update on the bidding process and the construction process. Bid package 1, those have been, contracts have been awarded. We've started the work on site. That's the site work. Bid package 2, we're here today to go over the award recommendations that we submitted. And bid package 3, those bids are actually due tomorrow, so we've got a bid opening here at noon. In regards to construction status update, we mobilized and we're currently on site. Last week we installed the silt fence, did a little bit of site demolition. This week you'll see Homer, which is the tree removal service on site, removing trees and shrubs, as well as our larger trailer was delivered and dropped off. So that'll be installed in the next couple of days, and we'll start having construction meetings on site. The construction fence was installed today. And then we've got site demolition for the utility subcontractor taking place tomorrow, as well as our earthwork subcontractor starting stripping the topsoil. So in the next week or two, the majority of the work that's going to be happening on site is moving dirt around, stripping the topsoil, and excavation of the detention pond and building up the pad. So that's just a brief overview of the construction status.
Jake?
I don't really have a whole lot to add. Obviously, we've been working with Leopardo and the information that we're getting back to look at what other type of scope may be available to the project, and incorporated information in the addendum for bid package 3 to accommodate that. So we're looking forward to the start of things. We're working through shop drawings at the moment for a number of the steel trades and things like that are part of the project.
Okay, Farnsworth Group is now under contract to do commissioning services on the jail or on the sheriff's facility. So we've gotten the ball rolling on that. We've had a number of conference calls with the team. A couple things I should point out. Because of the timing on this, we weren't able to get our traditional commissioning specifications into the bid documents. Leopardo was able to, in the last addendum, to get a little bit of stuff in there. But I want to say that Leopardo has some great front ends on their documents that have a lot of quality control stuff in it. And then there is a Division 23 mechanical commissioning specification that was included in the bid documents. So we feel like that is enough for us to work with, and that we don't need to do anything beyond what's already part of what was the bid packages on those that set of documents. So just wanted to let you know we don't see the need to throw any monkey wrench into that or anything with additional specs being issued at this point in time. So we feel like we can work with what we've got. We're currently developing the owner's project requirement documents, again coming in on the back end here. We're really just working with the design as it is, and then working with some of the operations maintenance folks to understand, how we want to review, because we want to do a design review on it, and we want to compare it to something. So we want to develop some type of owner project requirement document to base our design review on, and then to make sure we're achieving the goals and objectives for the county. Let's see, we've got a draft commissioning plan has been established, and I think we've sent that out to the team. So we'll continue to do that. We've got a kickoff meeting scheduled for October 11th with the team again, and anticipate doing our starting to do submittal reviews on bid pack 2. The scope of work for this facility is similar to what we're doing on the courthouse, but a little bit different, mainly because of the timing. There's certain things we couldn't do. And a couple of things that I want to specifically point out is things like the pre-bid meeting, we weren't able to really get involved in that. But one of the big things that was a conscious decision to make on the Justice Center was to pull the TAB work under Farnsworth Group as an independent thing. That is not the case with the sheriff's facility right now. Again, we work this way all the time, so it's not unusual for us to work with a contract like this where the TAB is part of the construction contract.
Can you reiterate what the TAB is?
Testing, adjusting, and balancing of the air and water systems in the building. So thanks for the reminder. And so again, we're used to working that way. We do verification of the TAB when it's this kind of a setup where it's part of the base contract. We come in and we do sampling of the TAB report. We make them show us 10% of the samples are coming out. If they come out fine, then we think, okay, it's looking good. If any of those don't come out okay, then we would go to like a 50% sample rate. Again, if those aren't checking out, then we may forcibly go back and rebalance the system. But so again, the point there is that we can work within the way the contract is set up now and not muddy the water or just kind of stir things up by trying to pull TAB out now. One thought that I did have on that, and just brainstorming with you a little bit, is you could ask for an RFP to pull it out and see what they come back with. If we thought that number was a good number and we wanted to take it, we could at that point. If we didn't think it was a good number, we could just leave it in the contract and not do anything. So that would be one thing that could be done here to kind of vet that through.
My only concern, well, I've ad nauseum, I've discussed this previously about the TAP contractor should work independently of should work for the owner or the commissioning agent. My only concern is, and I expressed this to Dave Tack before the thing went out to bid, but they didn't want to delay the bid process any longer. The mechanical contractor most likely has not put enough money in there for an independent balancing contractor to come in and do the work. Okay, what a balancing contractor's expectation of what's required of them when working directly for a mechanical contractor and working for an owner is different. They don't work as hard to make sure all the systems work completely properly, because if they note something that's deficient, then the mechanical contractor doesn't get paid, and then he doesn't pay the balancing contractor. So there's kind of a conflict of interest. And I understand where we're at, and I understand how we got here, because it was at such late notice that we decided to change this and try and put it under the commissioning agent. But what I would suggest is, if we were to ask them, it's likely that the number that they put on, the mechanical contractor puts on the value of this portion of the job is not adequate to actually have somebody else do it. Where the real concern comes in at is if Farnsworth gets to the commissioning part, we're at the end of the project, okay, the desks and the chairs and stuff are in the offices, we're ready to turn it over, people are ready to move in, and now all of a sudden, if the balancing doesn't check out, then somebody's got to go stay in that building for the next month and rebalance that building until you have substantial completion on the balancing. You won't get an occupancy permit. It could delay us at the other end of this thing just because we tried to save a small amount of money, and what the real difference is between an independent balancing contractor when working for a mechanical contractor. That's my concern, and I understand that if anybody else doesn't understand that, they can talk to me afterwards. I'd be happy to explain it to them, because I have a lot of more in-depth knowledge of this probably than most people sitting here do. But
Sure.
Mine was a real simple. I'm going to get much simpler in this, and it's all about revenue. Is there any market for topsoil? I mean, when you're scraping off all this stuff, and I don't see as many signs out there as there used to be.
I'll say this.
But we're using.
Between here and Coal City, there's probably about 20 million square foot warehouse space going in right now. And so there's not any sort of topsoil.
Yeah, right. Good point.
I just want to please follow up on John's question, so I'll ask. Should it be separated?
We've done
Is it a good practice to have it separated or not?
I mean, we've done it both ways. We've heard out, we've done it in-house where we require subcontractors to have an independent testing agent. They don't do it themselves in-house, so it's FB Moran who's on the award recommendation, so we'll hire someone to do their testing balance. And then we always review it with DLR. It's submitted, they review it, Farnsworth is gonna review it. So it does get in several people's hands if it's, any issues that we have, we can mitigate early on by having the team review the process. We do a test and balance plan before it's done, that's approved, this is what we're going to do. Farnsworth and DLR will look at that.
You're the check and balance.
Correct, it could go either way. We've had success both ways.
Okay, guys, one other real quick question. I'll let Don reply in a second, but and that is a facility management type system. David, maybe you had a little bit of discussion. We haven't really included that in this building. It's basically computerized, if I understand it correctly, data system that basically looks up the building to let you know what the heck, if you need a light bulb replaced or so forth. Is it too late to look at that?
I can speak to this. What Speaker Moskus is referring to is a. Well, yes, you did. And the gist of it is that there is a scientific, systematic methodological way to approach building maintenance from A to Z in terms of every component within all the building systems and how they are maintained, how that maintenance is documented, how and when it should be done, any problems and anything that are noted during the course of that are all documented, and it is designed so that it sets the stage for a prolonged life of any one of the building systems. And really, it really is most applicable to the MEP systems with responsible maintenance and all that. But I'd like to further add, I don't think it is too late. We are looking at that, and there's going to be a presentation on the 18th at the next Capital Committee meeting from Gilbane and Company that have included this as an alternate add to their contract. It is not currently included in the contract that we're going to be looking at today for Gilbane on the courthouse. However, what in talking with the speaker, I wanted to make sure that we brought Tom, that we brought Gilbane's expert on this matter into this committee, do a brief presentation, goes into much more depth than that, and then we can decide whether or not we want to use it for the courthouse and sheriff's.
If I understand it correctly, the system would include multiple buildings.
It can, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm thinking of it, since we're building these newer buildings, and since my understanding is it requires certain components of the building to be tagged and so forth during the construction. I'm not worried about the courthouse, I'm worried more about if we were going to include like the law enforcement facility. I do envision that at some point, if we had a dozen buildings, it's on the same system, and the facility manager could manage multiple buildings. Of course, you have staffs, but
Just for major systems.
But because you can include multiple buildings, I'm just wondering if it makes sense, or if we still have time to do that at this facility, law enforcement facility.
I think we did, and in advance of the presentation scheduled for the next committee meeting, I'll send you some baseline information on the, they call it E-facility. And you can take a look at it in advance. It'll be in your agenda packet as well. And make sure that y'all have it, can look at it.
I mean, the other thing that makes sense, I made, well, Hargrove and the LR Jake, you can respond. I mean, is this something you think is a best practice at this point, or? I didn't want you to jump in, I'm just wondering if
We get involved in these quite a bit, and there's kind of different strategies when it comes to how you operate a facility and whether you do predictive maintenance, whether you do preventative maintenance, whether you do reactionary maintenance, or whether you run everything to failure. And frankly, there's people that do that. And you know,
we've done it on occasion.
So really, that's what you're talking about.
Right,
Is really,
right.
and, you know, these things are becoming best practice. I mean, they're certainly not applied to every facility, and they're more applied to higher end facilities nowadays. But it's certainly becoming more and more common, and these software packages and these packages that do these things are becoming more cost effective all the time and more user friendly. And you can incorporate multiple facilities into these, and it's getting quite common.
I would think ultimately, if you use multiple facilities, that really means that you can have less manpower managing the buildings from a managerial standpoint.
I believe it would be
I
beneficial.
mean, you still need the people to do the work, that's like what as far as, you'd have one facility manager for multiple buildings.
It does a lot to maintain the value of your facilities, because what you see is that run to failure mode, you know, where it's all deferred maintenance. You can see the deterioration of the value of facilities because of that, you know.
Just
And
like
then,
our sheriff's facility always runs to failure. Just so you know, we know what that is.
Well, while I appreciate all the discussion on this,
Yeah.
for the sake of time, we could put this on the next agenda item and talk further about this, if that's okay. Mike?
Just one quick question, I want to know where we at on the camera. They part of
The site camera's been ordered,
Okay.
so we'll probably have it on site in the next week or two. We could, I don't know if you guys have an idea of a specific location you want to
Put it on the
install?
tower.
On the existing.
You know, just wherever you think Dave, where you get the best.
Just remember, you're on camera. Most construction is on
Right.
camera.
We'll get it up and running as soon as possible.
You're always on camera.
Right, you know.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Going into old business, discussion regarding Sunny Hill Nursing Home Maintenance Projects.
Well, good afternoon.
Mike.
Well, I've been lobbying for this, and Joe Mikan mentioned it, that we have 3 avenues that need floor replacement. I know it's hard to understand. The oldest avenue was done 11 years ago. In this, we use sheet vinyl, and all the seams have popped, mostly in the resident rooms, so we have tripping hazards. First Avenue, there has to be some moisture mitigation. There's moisture coming up through the floor. There was never any testing done for the moisture or any sealant added to keep moisture in the soil. So there's First, Second, and Third Avenue needs to be replaced. First Avenue, the hallway and resident rooms. Second and Third, right now, is just the resident rooms. Again, Joe talked about this, and I guess it comes down to your choice whether it's done through PVC or the county. It's going to be a process that is going to be somewhat time consuming. Right now, we're kind of at a time sensitive area. 6th Avenue will be complete within the next 2 months, and we want to do First Avenue first, and that is the avenue that has dementia and Alzheimer's patients on it. We would need to move all of those up to 6th Avenue and then go in there and tear up the old flooring and do a replacement. So,
Real quick question, what are we doing to make sure that the residents are safe and if these seams are popping, so that we're not having an injury?
well, right now, we've been gluing down the laminate and, or the sheet vinyl, and
Taking over something.
dealing with it,
to make sure
yeah, the
that-
best we can, right? So,
Jim?
I mean, I'm just gonna try to, get to what I think Mike is trying to get to. And that is, look, the flooring has to be done. There was a failure of the floors, and the insulation of them. Some of it had to do with the adhesive that was used and so forth. But the point is that it has to be done. Total cost of this is approximately $750,000. Farnsworth has already done the work, as far as I think, so it's ready to go out to bid. It's a bid situation. It's not like we're gonna be doing the work. It comes down to is, do you want the Public Building Commission to manage the project, or do you want Mike to manage the project? Basically, that kind of sums it up. It doesn't, it's something that does not, if it was something that required the Illinois Department of Public Health to sign off, then I would say let the Public Building Commission do it, because I used to work with IDPH. It does not, they just have to sign off on materials, so it doesn't require.
They don't have to sign off on anything.
I was understanding that they have to approve it, which is probably pre-done. I mean, it's not a big deal. Just letting them know what you're putting down. So that's what it comes down to, whether you want to decide it today, or you want to decide it at your next meeting, or at our next meeting.
Have to go before the board.
Yeah, the board would have to make the, well, if the board does not send it over to the Public Building Commission, then it stays here. It was just that simple.
Well, I think,
I mean, I
bring
know.
up the concerns of the safety
Either one,
of the
I think,
residents.
can do it. I mean.
So it's the 3 avenues of flooring. There was a wish list that went out to $204 million. We
Tighten that up.
or 2.4 million, sorry. But the floors are a safety issue, we need to do those. And then the washers and dryers, those are the 2 things that we really would like to do. And then Sunny Hill is complete. So the washers and dryers, I believe, were about $70,000. I'm spending approximately $12,000 a year keeping these things with duct tape and baling tape.
Facility management.
And then we could do that, yes. So, as far as Public Building Commission doing the project, I really don't care if they do it, I do it, or who. I just want you to,
I don't care.
I just want you to understand the importance of this. As far as PBC doing the project and going out to bid, that's fine. All I know is we don't need Poulos watching over the program. I mean, this is going to be a little over a year doing these avenues. I mean, I can watch over it. It's a coordination with the maintenance, moving furniture, and stuff like that. So
Mike's making reference to that. Polis is the construction manager for the nursing home. We're saying that on that. They're with the nurses.
Well, I say we just stay with Mike. What's the flavor of the board?
I don't care.
He said Mike.
I move we leave it with Mike.
All right.
Second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Discussion regarding Laramie Dispatch. We already had discussion. Finance. Can I remove this? Motion to remove. It was the discussion of Laramie Dispatch was already discussed. Motion to remove. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Number 3, authorizing the county executive to renew a lease agreement for the radio lab.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thanks, Ed. Authorizing allowance for Saturday work on the Will County Public Safety Complex.
Motion approved.
Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Authorizing Will County Executive to exit contract with Gail Bain.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Authorizing Will County Executive to amend HR Green design contract for the, yes.
Just second first.
Okay.
All right.
First, discussion.
All right. I was just curious why this came up now, just kind of procedurally. Why did it come up now with the lane? I mean, the impound lot I know was a change, right? The de-acceleration lane. I'm curious why it came up now instead
Rather
of
than
prior.
before.
Exactly.
Dave, you want to come up and further explain? I know when we had some issues in regards to the ingress, egress out of the facility, there's 2.
Yes.
And I'll let you explain.
Just so I make sure that I understand this properly, you're referring to the acceleration of the substantial completion item number?
No.
Number 6?
6.
The lane.
I'm sorry, Beth. I
In a
misunderstood.
simple answer, just wondering why it came up now.
It's a very
that's
good
what I
point.
have.
This is during the permitting process. The Will County Department of Transportation said that because of the proximity of this right-hand in, right-hand out only, the new entrance, or new access point to the busy intersection at Route 52, it had to have a deceleration lane. And so it was at their insistence that we moved in this direction, because otherwise, if we didn't give them a commitment, DOT a commitment for the decel lane, they weren't going to sign off on, yes, for the project.
Okay.
All good.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Awarding contract to JP Larson for air barrier work. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Ramcorp for masonry. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Awarding contract to DBM Services for carpentry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Awarding contract to JL Adler Roofing for roofing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to House of Doors for sectional doors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Northern Glass for glazing.
Second.
All in favor? Hi, guys. Awarding contract to Valley Security Company for detention equipment. All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Vulcan Insulation for sprayed insulation.
Second.
All in favor? Discussion, Gretchen?
My question is just that there's an estimate on there, and we weren't even close. They were 9 times, the actual bid was 9 times higher than the estimate. I'm just wondering why they're so far off base. Or is that a typo maybe?
So, yeah, I can comment on that. So when we provided the budget, it wasn't broken out specifically the way that the bid categories ended up getting submitted and bid. So we maybe had a budget for one line item that included several different categories. So when we did the award recommendations, we broke it out. And that's just.
And this is part of what we had prior discussion on. There were some delays and issues with it too, correct?
And it's important to note that the scope of the spray insulate, the spray on insulation is limited to the cantilevered roof section. I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but cantilevered steel, structural steel at the dispatch center.
For the overhangs and the exterior
Right.
wall.
And so there's not a lot, the rest of it is bad insulation that, which comes in the rolls like you would use, in other applications. So originally, the estimate was done and it was predicated on the entire insulation package. As Margot mentioned, the spray-on insulation is only a very small but specialized activity. So, and that
Yeah, cool. I just wondered.
Anyone else? All in favor? So moved. Awarding contract to Effie Moran for HVAC.
Discussion. I'll second it and then discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Effie Moran's a contractor out of Northbrook, Illinois. The second highest bidder was less than 5% higher than the Northbrook contractor. They're out of New Lenox, located about a mile and a half from the facility. They just participated in a sheriff's, or not sheriff's, but police station with Leopardo at New Lenox Police Station. Air Quality is their name. And
What was
I
it
have
called?
Air Quality. And what happens is, the Northbrook contractor gets this. About 50% of the project for the HVAC contractor is fabrication of the ductwork and that goes into the job. And that fabrication will leave Will County and go to Northbrook to get fabricated. It won't get fabricated here. The other question I have is, there's in the bid document here for what we have been provided for the meeting, there's about $110,000 difference in price. But like I said, it's less than 5%, it's about 4.5%. But there was 2 alternates that were accepted. And it's unclear to me whether those alternates are additional to the contract price, and what the difference was in the bids with the 2 alternates, with the second lowest bidder and with the lowest bidder. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So in your award recommendation, the alternates are included in the total value. I have to go back and look at Air Quality's bid proposal to see how they compared as it relates to the alternates.
Yeah, I just wonder if they're at all closer. I know that the wage package for Local 73 in Chicago, where F.E. Moran's people come from, is a few dollars higher than the Local 265 package is. So any extra costs that are done along the job, I mean, we have a guaranteed fixed price from Leopardo, but extra cost for them is likely to be higher than it would be for a local contractor doing that work. So I think there may be some, I'd like to see us look at it a little harder.
I know that, it's been the intention of this board to make sure that we had local participation, and if there's a price difference or if there's something that we can look closer, thank you for pointing that out. Does anyone have any other?
Can we hold this one out?
I move it along if there's additional information before the county board meeting.
Okay.
And I'm aware that at the moment, I believe that I brought something up to Dave Tack yesterday on the interview rooms for the sheriff. Right now, they're all serviced by, there's what's called a maternal device, or a variable air volume box that's going to serve all the interview rooms. And then they're going to have a common duct system that's going to be uninsulated round pipe that's going to go from room to room to room. So if somebody's in one room and they're yelling or whatever, people in the other interview rooms may be able to hear that sound. Also, the return ductwork isn't hard pipe back to the return ductwork. It's just a transfer drill from room to room to room. Above the ceiling, they'll put an insulated elbow, short piece of duct and insulated elbow probably. But that's not likely to completely stop any sound transfer between rooms. If we were just sitting in here having a normal conversation, we probably wouldn't hear anything from room to room. But I think if you have somebody sitting in an interview room and they're screaming at the top of their lungs or whatever, somebody in one of the other interview rooms could hear what's going on. I think that could jeopardize investigations. And I suggested to Dave that they may want to look at that and put a separate terminal device for each room, a separate VAV box, hard duct return back to the return ductwork, so that they don't have any, through the ductwork system, any way of transferring sound from room to room.
Yeah,
And so
I would hope they would take that into consideration.
it's not in the original design. That's why I brought it up. So
It's not a large, that's definitely achievable. You could do multiple things. With the DAV boxes, take the drywall off the deck, do some sound insulation inside the room. So it's definitely something we're looking at right now with the DOR.
You weren't suggesting not move that alone when you done.
Pardon?
Were you suggesting not moving this along, or no?
No, what I'm saying is it's going to be the first extra cost.
Okay.
F.E. Moran's going to come back and say, to add terminal devices, it's going to be extra. To insulate the ductwork, it's going to be extra. To install ductwork and return system, it's going to be extra. So I mean, it's 5 minutes to glance at the drawings. I saw this, so I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that,
So
like you said.
So the VAV is going to be an extra cost regardless. But in terms of looking at air quality more closely, considering them as our vendor, what needs to happen today?
Well, I don't think that's going to, you're going to get a good product either way. Both contractors are going to provide a fine system, once it's all hashed through. But I think, I'd like us to go back and look at the numbers a little bit harder and see if,
Now that we're having two capital meetings, I mean,
that's all.
Look at it, and bring it back in 2 weeks, bring this one back
you
in
know,
2 weeks.
we've got to, so we can price.
This is still the FC that stands for that.
We'll be able to stand with that.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion and we'll bring it back.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Number
Yeah.
16.
I'll make a motion to move it to the next agenda. I'll change the agenda, I'll change my motion to move it to the next second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awarding, number 16, awarding contract to JV Contracting Corp. for electrical fire alarm.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Crier and Olson Mechanical for plumbing.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Nelson Fire Protection for fire protection.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Commercial Electronic Systems for security and paging equipment and cabling.
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awarding contract to Pentagra Systems for audio-visual equipment and cabling.
I have a question. I'm not familiar with this contractor. Are they signatories to ITW? You know?
I cannot confirm that,
But I
but
mean, there is PLA on the job, so.
yes.
They'll be required to sign both agreement under PLA, correct?
And I can tell you this much.
They may be.
They did some work for the Public Building Commission at River Valley Juvenile Detention Center. So
Okay.
their performance wasn't what you would classify as exceptional. The second low bidder was very close, which was CES, also a local vendor. But ultimately, Pentagra, they were a little better at the day and recommend, they had, I mean, they were scoped.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure, I can check on signatories.
Yeah.
I gotta believe
I
they
mean,
are.
under PLA, you don't have to become
So
signatories
the work
to the
wasn't
agreement,
exceptional?
but just trying to avoid problems there.
I'll be honest, Dave, your comment that the work may or may not have been exceptional or Valley gives me a little hesitancy. So can we carry this one over as well? I don't think there was a motion yet.
Move to put it onto the next agenda.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Awarding contract to Low Voltage Solutions for structured cabling.
Move. Second.
All in favor? Awarding contract to Olson Roofing for metal wall panels.
Motion,
Second.
Discussion.
any idea you guys like?
Not allowed.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved, awarding contract to ThyssenKrupp for elevators.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No other new business, public comment? Anyone have public comment? No public comment. The chairman's report, no executive session, motion to adjourn. So moved.
Good job, good job. Good job.